You have the sun that you see out here is nothing but a reflection of a greater sun. That greater sun is the star sun Sirius, which is the brightest star in our constellations, as well as the true father of our particular universe. But the key to this is that father has a mother. There is no such thing as a father that deals with this woman. So when you talk about the father in heaven, you're actually talking about the son in heaven. And when you talk about the son of the father, you're talking about the grandson or the son of the son. But the supreme archetype of heaven is the mother, known as the goddess Kali in India. It's known as the goddess Apit here, or Tyert, or the goddess Nut. Now, Apit, or Tyert, is this hippopotamus goddess that gives birth to this little dog, the dog star. You see, the actual dog star. So this is very key. Now, she gives birth to the dog star, and then all of the other stars and all of the actual other parts of the zodiac comes into view. Now, this particular zodiac of Dendera is real key for one reason. Number one, this is an astronomical zodiac. Now, you got to understand, there is astrology and there's astronomy. Astrology, astrological, is based on the stars in this particular, basically around the sun. You understand what I'm saying? In our solar system. Astronomy, or astronomical zodiac, deals with the zodiacal universe. This is an astronomical zodiac, which also is in this astronomical zodiac, astrological zodiac. Now, the book that now this is a key book. It's called Cyril Fagan's book. It's a book that the white boy took off the market because he was a part of the Royal Astronomical Organization in England. He found out, well, the white people were saying, well, we can't deny that Egyptian was the inventors of astronomy, but astrology, that's a whole other thing. That's Greece. So this particular white boy went back and studied the temple of Dendera and all of the other temples, and he broke down that found out in an actuality that astrology was also started in Hemmitt too, and there's no kind of science that don't come out of Hemmitt or Egypt. Now, he found this particular thing out, and they threw him out of the actual Royal Astrological Society, and as a result, he wrote a book called Astrological Origins by Cyril Fagan that now is out of print, but with some luck, I do have a copy of the book, so we can either get that printed or also too, you know, Raoul Nefer talks about this particular person in his book Medunetta 1. Also too, Medunetta 1. And also too, you can also go to certain libraries and get this particular book. I think the last printing was 1972 by Llewellyn Publications. Now, so this is an astronomical zodiac. Now, this particular zodiac, like I said, in this particular temple was built in Hemmitt, and it was, even though it was built in the Ptolemy period of the Greece. Now, the Greece really didn't run Hemmitt. The Greece was actually scared. The Greeks, excuse me, was actually scared of the Egyptian priests. So they would go. So the Egyptian priests would come to them and say, "Now we need a temple. You know what's going down?" And they would give them the money to build the temple or the manpower at this particular time with the Ptolemies when they were ruling. For the simple fact that they were scared and all of the actual Egyptian priests. So they did muscle around the other people. They didn't go up against the priests at this particular time. The priests understood in divine prophecy that the Greeks had to rule as well as Hemmitt had to fall. We'll get into that in a few minutes. Also, so they built this particular temple, and they tore down an ancient temple. And the ancient temple that they tore down had a hieroglyphic based on a papyrus, a crack in the wall, and they actually fashioned the actual temple. So even though the stones, and they always use the older stones, they use the stones from the older building to build a new one back. So even though this is a newer temple, it contains the oldest and it is the most complete findings in the world is in the temple of Dendera. And this zodiac is approximately 90,000 years old. This is what you're seeing right here. And on here it has the origins of the black woman being God and woman being God, period. The great microcosm of the macrocosm, which a triple blackness of space is called chaos. The womb of the universe, because everything is born from a feminine principle. Check. Now, let's go on. And we'll deal with some other things. Now, Dr. Ben said that, now, based on Brian Fagan's book, Rape of the Nile, you're going to find out that the French blew this thing down, and they took this particular Zodiac to Paris. It's in the Louvre in Paris, and they put up another plaster Zodiac. Now, what had happened was it was the Russians who was going to get this Zodiac. So the French, the Britons were coming was coming to get it. But before they got there, a French cat took some Arab help and blew it down. And on the way taking it to the ship, it fell into the Nile, and they needed more help. But they got it up out of the Nile, and they took it and they put it on a ship and rushed it to France before the British could get in and get it. You understand what I'm saying? So it's, this particular, the original replica is now in the Louvre in Paris, in the Egyptian antiquities also too. Very key, because everything is in here. Now, when we deal with the actual star systems of all of these particular temples, you're going to find out that all of these particular temples are based around the star system Sirius, which is called Syriac architecture. That's the key, because that is the monument, that is heaven, and these are the monuments of heaven. Kemet was known as the heaven on earth. So as we go on. So Dr. Ben said that this was a fake one. He said there's a square Zodiac, but he was mistaken for the simple fact that this is the real one that's in Paris. And the square Zodiac was also on another side of the room. And that other Zodiac on the other side of the room is this particular square Zodiac. 2 levels of that square Zodiac also. Now you want to get deeper into the astronomical part of the temples and the breakdown of the stars and the temples, you need to buy a book by the name of J. Norman Lockyer, or Lockyer, L-O-C-K-Y-E-R, J. Norman Lockyer. And that particular book is called The Dawn of Astronomy. Now, the key to this book is out of print, but now you can also go to, there's a new out-of-print book company called Kessinger, and they've just reprinted this Dawn of Astronomy in here. And in here they show different breakdowns of the Temple of Dendera, the Temple of Dendera. And so on one side of the hall, you have one Zodiac that was in the ceiling. That's the round Zodiac that I just showed you. But on another part of the ceiling, you would have the square Zodiac. And this was in the temple ceilings. And they blew down the round Zodiac. And for some reason, it's cut off because they left the black woman in the damn temple. But they blew it down. Now, so that's the square Zodiac. Another form of that square Zodiac is in Dendera is also other forms that deals with different things you see. And right here you see the pictures of the circle, which is also the boat, which is also representations of UFOs that we're going to get into. And you also see the circle with the eye of Heru. So each time you see the circle, you know that that is a form of melanin also. And this is one also, too, in Dendera. These particular zodiacs with hieroglyphic inscriptions. Now, the other thing that we need to deal with is Dendera is called the Temple of the Virgin Birth. Very key. Dendera is probably one of the most important ones. There's different temples now. You know, down in Nubia, they covered up over 200 temples when they built the Aswan Dam, you see. And when they built the Aswan Dam, they covered up over 200 temples. One good book is called The Book of the Masters, Egyptian Doctrine of Light Born of the Virgin Mother by W. Marshall Adams, an out-of-print book that you can now get from African Heritage Classical Studies Research Series out of, I think that's Chesapeake, Virginia. What's my man name? You know, the E. Curtis Alexander that also does these things now. And so now, this particular Temple of the Virgin Birth that they're talking about, what happens is this particular temple was built for the star system Sirius. Now, Hathor Het Heru is the real name. Het, which means house. Heru, which means Christ. House of Heru, the house of God, which means the black woman who is Het Heru, which is the house of God. Now you got the triple goddess. You have the celestial Isis, which is Het Heru. Then you have the earth, one of the earth Isis, which is the Aset that you know of. You see, there's different forms of Isis. And then you have the winged Isis, which is Mayat, which is the end result. But, Aset. But the celestial Aset is called Het Heru, is also called the goddess Sothis. And Sothis is a name of Sirius also. Now, this particular temple of Dendera that I like to show was built, it was built for the star system of the temple. It was built mainly for Sirius. Now, what happened was you have the Sirius rising when your star used to rise up. This is heaven because this star was responsible for the birth of what you would call the birth of the life on this planet. It doesn't rain in Hemmitt or Egypt, so the Nile was the source of the water. So as a result, every summer they'd have the rainy season. That's how you could tell whether it was whatever. You could have the dry season, you have the rainy season. And every summer you would have what is called dog days, which comes from the dog star Sirius. Every July 23rd, this star would rise up over the horizon in the morning. Now this particular temple, every July 23rd, this star Sirius would rise up, and they would make it so that when it would rise up, this whole temple would light up because of that star Sirius. It would light up. And the priest was a big ceremony. And every July 23rd, that star would come up, and this particular whole temple would light up. You see, that because of that particular star system, and also Sirius, the chief star of the host of heaven, that is the son of the mother, the triple blackness of space, called Draco of Nut, or Apit, or Tired, which is represented as a hippopotamus goddess. Real key, because we're going to get into a few things in a few minutes. Now, another part of Dendera, it's a temple that is built for the star system Sirius. But now another part of Dendera is the famous Hypostyle Hall. And Hypostyle Hall means Hall of Many Columns. I'm going to show you a couple of versions of the Hypostyle Hall at Dendera, at Karnak, which is Apet-Isu, the oldest university in the world, and also Esna. I'm going to show you pictures of the Hypostyle Hall at these particular places. So bear with me as I go through and we find these particular Hypostyle Halls. Now, the Hypostyle Hall at Dendera, let me get this particular picture so we can show you this, is a hall of many columns. It's interesting because when we deal with this, you're going to find out, when I show you these Hypostyle Halls, I'm going to also show you one at the Temple of Isis, but I'm going to show it to you in color, which would be a very good representation to put your mind back into Hemmitt at that particular time. I'm also going to show you pictures of the Sphinx, the famous pictures of the Sphinx before the nose was blown off. Now, this is a picture of the Hypostyle Hall of Dendera. And as you can see, there's a grand procession going on, and there's many columns. Now, please note that these particular pictures, each one of the hieroglyphics in these particular columns that was built, they had hieroglyphics of metanetta all over the temple. There was not a spot on any temple in Hemmitt where they didn't have metanetta. The Greeks started trying to copy, and they could not put the metanetta because the best artists in the world came from Hemmitt, or Egypt. Now, this Hypostyle Hall, and each one of the metanetta was painted, and they had the white backgrounds. I'll show you representations of that. So I want you to get your cameras ready and zoom in on some of these pictures to actually show the representation of the paintings of this Hypostyle Hall. Now, each one of these were painted, and this is the Hypostyle Hall, Hall of Many Columns at Dendera. Now, it's very interesting. This is a remake because we want to show not so much of ruins. You can see that in most Kemetic books or Egyptian books of the ruins, as well as going up the Nile. We want to show reconstruction because we're trying to put your mind back into the part of when the black man and black woman was at their greatest ever. You understand what I'm saying? So this is the Hypostyle Hall. There's processions going on. There is the light of the sun lighting up the actual place. So very key. Now let me show you one other piece on the Hypostyle Hall at Dendera. Now, this is very key. Now, I want you to zoom in on this particular picture. Is everything all right? All right, we're going along. I want you to zoom in on the pictures. Now, I showed you before that in actuality, the actual nose that you see on the particular people when they remade Dendera, you actually see they have keen-shaped alkaline noses because the white boys tried to, didn't want to show the original thing. But David Roberts is one of the actual artists that drew some of the things, and when he sketched out some, there is a picture of the head on the inside of the temple, and I want you to zoom in on it because it is a picture of a black woman. Also, I have an actual picture. Now, this is a beautiful day because I got an actual picture of the ancient Egyptians on how they look. It was painted in the 1800s before half